Turn on the mic. And normally I would introduce the speaker and give a little short bio, but I had a little chat with them, and I'm only going to introduce them by name, and they'll give you some information from their bio. Okay. So the first element that we have here is Travis Linscomb. Travis, come over here, please. You can at least come up on the screen. And then we have Matthew Wilkinson, and then Shelby Taber. And they'll be starting the presentation. All three of them work for UGRA. So let's give them a hand of applause for making the time to be here.
I'm going to start. Thank you. Thank you so much for the introduction. And thank you all for being here, inviting us to speak at your meeting. We're really excited. As has been said, we're from the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, also known as UGRA. And a short introduction about ourselves. So my name is Shelby. I'm the Natural Resources Manager. I have a Bachelor's of Science in Geography, Resource, and Environmental Studies from Texas State University, as well as a Master's of Science in Resource and Environmental Science from Ohio State University. And then we have Travis, one of our natural resources specialists. He has a Bachelor of Science in Wildlife Management from Tarleton State University and a minor in biology, as well as Matthew, our other natural resources specialist. He has a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Science with a specialization in Natural Resources and Wildlife Management from the University of Texas at San Antonio. So all very long degrees that we have. So a little bit about UGRA. So UGRA was created by the 1939 state legislature as a conservation and reclamation district. We have jurisdiction in Kerr County, and we are funded by county tax dollars. And we're actually led by a 9-member board of directors appointed by the governor. And our board president, Diane McMahon, is actually here with us today. Always excited when she's able to come see us. And river authorities in Texas are political subdivisions established by the legislature that all function a little bit different. So some are utilities that sell water or provide wastewater services, kind of like LCRA, and some aren't, like us. Our primary role is as stewards of the Guadalupe River Authority, or Guadalupe River. We do water quality monitoring, outreach and education, and we participate in state water planning processes, as well as programs to enhance local water resources. We have a nationally certified environmental lab, which analyzes drinking water, wastewater, and sludge. And those samples can come from our monitoring programs, other entities, or even members of the public. Yes, thank you. While we are the Upper Guadalupe River Authority, it is important to note that the Guadalupe River is not the only river basin in the Hill Country Master Naturalist region. The region covers 10 counties and has 5 major river basins, which are the Colorado River Basin, the most prevalent basin in the region, the Guadalupe River Basin, which is where we are today, the San Antonio River Basin, the Nueces River Basin, and in the far west of Edwards County, there's a small portion of the Rio Grande River Basin. We also have up here some resources included for you to use depending on where you're from, and most of them are actually just local river authorities, so you can also look those up on your own time. And the Guadalupe River is the main drainage point for the entire basin. It runs from Kerr County all the way down to the Gulf of Mexico. So it spans portions of 13 different counties and drains an area a little over 6,000 square miles. So when figuring in all the different meanders, it runs about 400 river miles. And some of the larger cities along the river include Kerrville, New Braunfels, Seguin, Gonzales, Cuero, and Victoria. The Guadalupe also has several dams along its length, the most notable of which forms Canyon Lake, northwest of New Braunfels. So when we zoom in just on Kerr County here, that our primary watershed, but just to make sure we're all on the same page about what a watershed is, it's an area of land delineated by high points in elevation that all drain to a primary body of water. So a good way to think about it is like a giant funnel. So we have the headwaters in Kerr County, which you can kind of see headwaters up here. I don't know how hard it is to see. The headwaters have lasting impacts all the way downstream to, imagine this, the Gulf. So what we do here in Kerr County can be very important for a large part of Texas. And then real quick, Matt's going to come up here and tell us a little bit about some of our different programs at UGRA.
Thank you, Shelby. So like you said, we're going to go over a few of our programs for outreach and education, as well as water quality monitoring programs and some of our watershed protection programs. So starting off with outreach and education programs, a lot of what we do at UGRA is outreach and education, much like like what we're doing today, where we go to different organizations or different events, maybe like at Riverside or just booths at events that we might have, where we emphasize just kind of telling people what we're about. We teach people about different stewardship techniques they can use, or just ways they can enjoy the river responsibly, things like that. And we do all these different presentations and booths at various events, and we cover a whole range of different demographics, all the way from little school children at elementary schools, all the way up to retirees and everything in between. So we like to really get out into the community and make sure people know how they can take care of their water and how they can enjoy their water, because everybody needs water, right? So just some examples of these outreach and education programs. So I know the Texas Master Naturalists are really big on volunteering. We have some volunteer opportunities that go on throughout the year, and I'll elaborate a little more on those here in a minute. But we also focus a lot on rainwater harvesting education, because it's important that people know how important rainwater harvesting can be for the health of the river as well as the land. And as you can see right there, at the bottom picture that's actually our rain take here at UGRA on our campus here, where we collect 30,000 gallons off about a 10,000 square foot catchment area. So we really like to catch our rainwater here. And after this last little rain we had, it definitely moved the bar a little bit. So that's really good to see. And also, we get a lot of landowners that actually, are really interested, and like many of you have taken advantage of our rainwater harvesting. They come in and ask questions, and we have lots of resources on rainwater harvesting. But it's important that we put them in contact with people like you that might have a system at their house that's in action and working well. So if any of you ever want to be a resource for education about rainwater harvesting to the public, just give us your contact information. We'd love to put these folks in contact with you. We'll be around afterwards for you to maybe give us your contact information for that. So yeah, like I mentioned, we have a rainwater system here at UGRA, but it's just part of our UGRA Eduscape, which is basically the landscaping around our building, where it's just a resource for education, things like landscaping techniques that are really good for catching rainwater and keeping it around, as well as native plants you can plant, and different techniques for just taking care of the land, so we can essentially take care of the river by taking care of the land. In addition, we have partnerships with Riverside Nature Center, where we have a few different events that we sponsor over there. All right, public awareness campaigns. Here we go. So we have a pretty big presence here in Kerr County. Things like we do lots of radio work, where we go on air at some of the radio stations around here, as well as we run regular ads pretty regularly on all the different radio stations around. And we like people. Apparently, Kerrville and around here, it's a big radio town still. A lot of people don't like to listen to the radio, but we actually get a lot of people that ask us about our radio ads and stuff. So it's really nice to have that radio presence. We also do ads in the local publications, newspapers, magazines. And people also like to read the newspaper around here. So it's really nice to have that presence. But we also have our own publication, the Year in Review, as well as other literature we share. But the Year in Review is something we do here. And we have a bunch of the 2021 Year in Reviews out in the lobby here, if y'all haven't gotten that. And then here in the next few months, we'll be releasing our 2022 Year in Review. So keep your eyes open for that. Lots of useful information that kind of tell you about what we've been doing over the last year, and maybe a little bit of what's to come. And then lastly, one of our really big resources is our website. Our website's a great resource for all things UGRA and stewardship and Guadalupe River, as well as resources that can take you to different resources. So, I mean, it's a really great way to kind of learn about just what we are as an organization. Like, for example, this picture right here is just one of our little plaques that we have out in our Eduscape, but we have all of that information on our website as well, in case it's maybe a rainy day and you can't get out to the Eduscape. Then, like I said, everything stewardship, Guadalupe River, and UGRA, it's going to be up on that website. It's a great resource. It's www.ugra.org. But yeah, so I encourage you all to check out all those different resources. And like I said, we have volunteer opportunities. Many of you have probably participated in at least one of these, but I see some faces around here that y'all have participated in a few of them. Our flagship volunteer opportunity is the annual river cleanup. There was a great Texas Master Naturalist group that cleaned up Guadalupe Park, both for the main event in July as well as the On Your Own that we did as two different events this year. So that was really awesome. Y'all did a lot of great work. There was a lot of really good groups that did a lot of good work for the On Your Own as well as the big event. Big event where hundreds of volunteers get together throughout Kerr County and just clean up the watershed, and then we convene all at Flat Rock Park and just have a great time, and we all enjoy being stewards together. And next up, recently we just closed out our volunteer summer study where volunteers go throughout the county and take water samples from the main stem of the Guadalupe as well as all the creeks and streams, and bring it back here for an E. coli bacteria analysis, and that complements our summer swimmability study, bacteria level sampling, where we just kind of see where all the, if there's any problematic areas that are, elevated in bacteria levels and things of that nature, so we can alert the public or conduct investigations where needed. Next up, another volunteer opportunity that many people aren't aware of is sample bottle prep. We take a lot of samples throughout the year, and we need help sometimes to remove all those sample bottle labels that have already been used up, and then to get the bottles ready for the next sampling event. So if y'all ever want to come out for just a fun time of removing a bunch of bottle labels, let us know. And also those volunteer codes are up here as well. So another volunteer opportunity that happens weekly over here is frankly the crew of a bunch of Texas Master Naturalists, where they go maintain the pollinator garden here on our UGRA Edgescape. So if y'all ever want to come out and just enjoy getting your hands dirty, digging around in the mulch and dirt, please get a hold of Frank and he'll put you to work out there. So these are just some of our volunteer opportunities. Please let us know if you ever want to be on our contact list for the summer study or the cleanup, or just clean some sample labels. That'd be great. So next up, I want to hand it over to Travis, who's going to talk a little bit about our water quality monitoring activities.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So a little quick overview of our water quality monitoring programs. We have 6 surface water quality monitoring programs here at UGRA. And we also have one state contact program that allows us to submit data to the state, and we can use that data in water quality monitoring or water quality decisions. And here in Kerr County, we look at about 40 different sites that we monitor routinely, and we had 2,300 tests around there in 2021. So that was quite a bit of tests that we ran, and that was on things like bacteria and which is our E. coli that we're looking at. We also do in-stream flow measurements, which I have our flow meter over here if y'all want to look at that after we're done. And also I have our data sondes over there. So we have those, and that gets us our temperature, pH, conductivity, and dissolved oxygen. So we can grab all that really quick and easy. And then for our big quarterly events, we do conventional stuff like chloride, nitrate, sulfate, total phosphorus, suspended solids, turbidity, ammonia, total kilojule nitrogen, and chlorophyll A and piofactin. So those are just ones that we do quarterly, and we submit some of that data to the state. And there's another program that we do that we submit or that we don't submit to the state, but we use it as an in-house program to look at our tributaries. And then we also do aquatic life monitoring, which is what the biological is on there. And that is looking at fish and invertebrate communities and also the habitat. And we do a 24-hour dissolved oxygen on there. And so I have some of the different invertebrates that you might find that something like what we would use on that. We'd get them all, and then we look at all the different species that you might find And each one has a point value to it. And so that's how we come up with that. And the fish are the same way. They have point values based on species. And so, yeah, I encourage y'all to look at those after we're done here. Oh, point value. So it's a good question. Trying to simplify it down to, so like one species might have 10 points, another, 8 and 5. So different ones. Oh, you have. No, that was, oh yeah. Kim asked if it was like an indicator of the clearness of the water, but this is just the bugs. So just the things like mayflies score really high. Also the caddisflies, which I have both of those over there. So those two get you a lot of points. You want a lot of diversity also. I can't remember off the top of my head what the score is that you want, but it breaks down ultimately into like exceptional, good, fair, or poor water quality, what you get overall with your score. I can't remember where those break out, but yeah, we always score exceptional on them because we have such good water quality up here. And so it's a little easier for us than other places in the state that are downstream further of large areas where they get a lot of pollution, because these things are, like canaries in coal mine, they're indicator species is what they are. And yeah, that's so I got on that one. I'd be happy to answer any more questions a little bit later. But for now, we're going to move on to the next part here. And Matt's going to tell us a little bit about our watershed protection programs.
Thank you, Travis. All right. So like you said, we're going to focus a little bit on our watershed protection programs. We have several different ones, but we're going to kind of hone in on these. Got my clicker upside down. We're going to hone in on these. They all focus on promoting stewardship and teaching people and partnering with landowners on how they can be good stewards of their watersheds. So first off, the rainwater rebate program. We already kind of touched on rainwater harvesting, but we do have a rebate program that many of you have taken advantage of, where we offer 50% up to $500 to Kerr County residents who want to install rainwater catchment systems. It only covers the catchment materials. It does not cover the distribution, but anything up from the gutters all the way down to the barrel and the pumps. Anything from a 50-gallon all the way up to 30,000 gallon like ours here at UGRA, that all makes a difference. Rainwater is important to keep it where it as close to where it is generated as possible, because otherwise maybe it can run off and it can carry lots of pollution down into the river. It can cause lots of erosion, and plus it can just it's a great way to conserve water, so we're not having to take so much out of the river. And you can, a lot of people use rainwater for all of their needs and never have to really drill a well or anything. Unfortunately, we've been in a drought, but things are starting to look up. This little past weekend was really nice for all that rain. And keeping on the topic of rainwater, we actually have a new rainwater catchment grant program where it's actually replacing our large rainwater incentive program. And this program basically just focuses a little more on nonprofits, organizations, and public entities that can serve as a public resource for education of rainwater harvesting. So we really like our rainwater here at UGRA because it's really important for, stewardship and on the land as well as in the water. Next up, we have our brush management cost share program where landowners can partner or get a contract through NRCS, and they can clear the cedar off their land, and then we will match 25% of what NRCS pays the landowner for that cedar clearing. But while we do have this program, we also like to encourage the landowners that take part in this program to not only clear the cedar, but also replace that cedar so you just don't have bare soil. Replace it, with native grasses and native trees and native shrubs and things of that nature to keep the soil in place. So whenever it does rain, you're not having just a big sheet flow and raindrop erosion and things like that. So we definitely like to keep the plants around. Yes. Just Kerr County residents is yeah, all these programs right here are actually all just Kerr County that we offer to Kerr County residents. Yes. I'm not familiar with too many really, especially with rainwater. I mean, we're pretty unique here at UGRA and in Kerr County, where we have a pretty awesome rainwater program. As far as the other ones, I can't think of any off the top of my head. Yes. Okay. She asked, why are we targeting the removal of cedar? It's basically, cedar has really taken over here in the hill country, and it's people like to clear cedar for things like ranches and all that kind of thing, but it just kind of is a way to promote replenishing different natives that can really bolster the ecosystem and provide homes for different we're aware that things like old growth cedar are really important for like the golden cheek warblers and things like that, but there's a lot of cedar around here, and it's just a great way to make more room for all the different natives that we could plant and just have a lot of different diversity in that plant life. Yes. Oh man, that's a great question. Sorry. Is there a certain percentage that we're trying to manage for cedar? I mean, that's NRCS does all the surveying and things like that, and they have all those maps that they use, and it's all within the contract that they have with the landowner. That's a really good question, though. I did like that question. I can look into that. Yeah, no problem. Anybody else have any questions? Natural Resources Conservation Service. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's a good one to know for sure. Acronyms are abundant here. Yeah. So does anybody have any questions about that program? Had a lot for that one. Did you have anybody? All right. Lots of really good questions. So next up, the Healthy Creeks Initiative. This is a program where we partner with Texas Parks and Wildlife to remove Rundodonax. And for those of you that don't know a Rundodonax, it is that's a scientific name of giant cane or carrizo cane, and it's very abundant here in Kerr County and kind of just all throughout the hill country, really. And it's very invasive. It grows really fast. It soaks up a lot of water, and it kind of just takes up a lot of habitat for a lot of natives that would, flourish if the arundo weren't there. And our part of the partnership is we go throughout and we try to get landowners on board with this program. And whenever landowners signed up, they allow us on their property to map this arundo. And then those maps are they have those over at Texas Parks and Wildlife, and then they send licensed herbicide applicator to go spray all these locations, and it's an aquatic rated herbicide. So, and it eradicates this arundo. Several locations have already been completely wiped clean of their arundo, and others are on their way out. So we've had a lot of success with the program, and we're hoping to grow the program and get as many landowners on board so we can get as much of this stuff out of here as possible. And you can see Travis right there kind of telling the licensed applicator what to do in that picture. So yeah, if you want to get on board with that program, please let us know. And then lastly, the feral hog program, that's a big one because feral hogs are very destructive to the environment, especially riparian areas and the creek bottoms and things like that, because they like to wallow around. They use those as an avenue to get around, and they defecate in the water, and it drives up E. coli levels. It drives up all kinds of different things that we don't really want our water to, like turbidity, and it just kind of makes the water quality go down in different areas where there's high numbers of these. So it's important to manage these numbers. It's probably impossible to eradicate them completely because they breed so much, and they're very prevalent all throughout the United States. But our program focuses on, we partner with Kerr County to, if a Kerr County resident brings the county the tails of the hogs they've harvested, then they get a $12 bounty for those hogs. So it's just a good way to kind of incentivize people to kind of get rid of stuff on their land, because those hogs can really cause problems for different water bodies. Part of that program also involves if you're a landowner and you want to trap it on your property, we have a couple traps in the county right now, and we monitor them with cameras, and then we can also lower the gates on them remotely in case there's a large amount of hogs in there. So you got a pretty cool operation going for the hog program, and we definitely want to grow that one as well. So we have all kinds of different ways we can protect the watershed and partner with Kerr County residents to be good stewards in their respective watersheds throughout the Guadalupe River Basin here in Kerr County. But I know that many of you might not be here in Kerr County as far as where you live. So we have some different stewardship techniques that apply all across the board for different water bodies and upland areas and riparian areas. And I'm going to hand it over to Travis now, who's going to talk a little bit about upland area stewardship.
Thank you, sir. All right. Let's see here. All right. So, as Matt said, we're starting with stewardship in upland areas. And, well, you can tell by this picture that they didn't do too good of a job on one side. Y'all probably have seen this image before. But, of course, this other side over here, it looks beautiful. It's deep, thick native grasses over there. But why do we need a healthy, nice upland area? And of course, that's an easy answer to that. It's because this is where it starts at. If a raindrop falls up here, you want it to soak in and to be caught there. And you don't want it to run off and shed off and pick up a bunch of pollutants, soil, loose soil, and things like that on that bare ground. Because the nice thick vegetation, that's going to hold the water, allow it to soak in. It's going to catch things, reduce runoff velocity. So your flow is going to be less in rivers if you take care of your upland areas. Whereas, on the bare soil over there, if you just had the other side, the watershed side, you're going to have water coming off really quick, which is going to increase erosion. And it's going to increase floods, and you're going to have a large impact on your rivers because of all this runoff that's going in there. So it might, extirpate some species. They might get moved out of there because you have all that pollution, things, if you get a bunch of nitrates in there, for example, you might have like an algae bloom, and then you can have a fish die off later from that whenever the algae dies off. So let's look at some strategies right quick. So one of those strategies is, of course, decrease impervious surfaces. So that would be your bare ground, or if you lived in a city, then you have a lot of concrete around that's going to increase that runoff. And we're going to kind of talk more about the urban and suburban type environments a little bit more than the rural areas, but I'll hit on them real quick. So as stuff like proper grazing if you have cattle, so that you don't end up with that watershed type area is one thing. And then also I'm going to skip down here to this terracing and berms really quick and talk about that a little bit. And I don't know if any of y'all have been to the Hill Country Alliance website and check that out. They have a great thing on hillsides and making sure that you could do things like logs and sticks in a contour to help reduce the sheet flow from coming off, or like more nuanced stuff like the rock rundowns, and which I don't have any pictures of those, but the Lunamitas, and I think I said that right. And which one? Media Luna? Yes, that one. I always mess that one up, but I had to give it a shot. So those are some examples that you could do. Oh, I got a question way back in the back. Oh, yes. And I think we might even have a link on our website too. I'm not sure about that, but Hill Country Alliance. go check out their website, and they have a lot of resources there, like this hillside land stewardship, I believe is what it's called. And it goes through on how to do those different practices also. All right. So I also want to talk about some things like terracing and berms that you could do in more of a urban or suburban type area. That would be something like large stones with mulch. And we actually have a really good example on our Eduscape out here of that. Feel free to go check that out one day. We also have those, you see those pavers over there on the far side of the screen. Those are pervious and they allow water to soak down through them. So you're not getting that runoff that you would get if you had just regular standard pavers there. So that's a great one there. Also, rain gardens are a really nice way to reduce stormwater runoff, to kind of catch it and hold it for a little bit. Plus you get some area for to grow some really pretty plants there and be really helpful for the pollinators that might come through. And then also I'll touch a little bit on rainwater harvesting, because that is a great way to retain stormwater runoff. And I like it a lot. That's actually my house down there at the bottom. I've got a 20,000 gallon tank there, and I'm catching off about 1,700 square feet. And you got to remember that 1,700 square feet where the rain's landing, that's not running off and going and picking up stuff and running it down to a river or creek or stream, increasing the flow, and you're getting more flood waters because it's going into that tank there, and it's going to fill that tank up first and help reduce the impact of the stormwater. So plus it tastes really great, so I highly recommend it. And another thing that we could do for our upland areas is the proper management of hazardous materials and pet waste. So that's just, making sure you dispose of your chemicals properly, like taking them to a hazardous waste day. And then for the pet waste, just picking up the pet waste so it doesn't build up too much and run off and cause algae blooms in the water and lead to, fish kills. We don't want to kill the fish. So that's just some things we could do in upland areas. We're going to move on to talk more about riparian areas, which are kind of your last line of defense. And Shelby is going to talk a little bit more about those for us.
Okay, thank you, Travis. So riparian areas, real quick to get into the definition, are the land bordering waterways that are filled with diverse plant life. So they serve as a buffer between the upland areas and the river. And the photo up there on top here is a depiction of a healthy riparian zone, which in our region is usually characterized by large bald cypress trees and tall grasses and sedges. So as Travis said, riparian areas are the river's first line of defense. And I like to say that it's first line of defense against erosion. So that native vegetation has really strong interconnecting roots that hold the soil in place, much like how rebar holds concrete together, if you like to think about it like that. And this vegetation also increases water quantity by acting as a sponge and helps water quality by filtering out sediment and hazardous materials. And then lastly, a healthy riparian area will provide crucial habitats for aquatic and terrestrial organisms. And so then we have down here on the bottom an example of an unhealthy riparian area. So in the bottom photo, you can see the lack of vegetation, which can expedite erosion and increase flood intensity. And it also can open the door for invasive species who bring a myriad of problems themselves. They use excess water, they don't provide as good a habitat for organisms, and they can alter their environment through allelopathy and decomposition, which allelopathy is just a fancy term for when plants produce chemical inhibitors that make it more difficult for their neighbors to survive. And I mean, all this to say, though, while having invasives on a riverbank is better than having bare soil, we really prefer native species because they provide the biggest benefit for riparian areas. And now that we've seen some of the benefits of a healthy riparian area, well, what kind of stewardship can we practice to protect them? So rather than clear cutting or mowing up to the river's edge, we want to create targeted access points and leave most of the riparian area to continue functioning as the buffer zone. So as you can see here in this bottom photo, we have these steps down the river. So the landowners can continue doing their favorite recreation, they can continue fishing, accessing the river, but there's a minimal disturbance to all this vegetation they have on these either side here. And part of this includes keeping a grow zone when maintaining your lawn, kind of like in the above photo where they stopped right here. their yard maintenance in a certain area to allow the riparian area to grow and have all that vegetation there. But if we're at a situation where bare soil is already a problem, someone's already ripped up all the vegetation off the riparian zone and there's nothing there anymore, we can restore that bank. Things can still happen there. You can either be planting plugs or seeds, and I know we have a bag over there of riparian recovery mix from Native American seed, which is something that you can get. You don't have to get specifically that mix. A lot of people make different mixes. You can also check out, like Travis mentioned earlier, the Hill Country Alliance has some great information on their page about riparian areas. And we have a book that we really love called The Remarkable Riparian. And it's not specifically talking about our region, it's talking about a different region of Texas, but it has a lot of really valuable information about riparian areas in general. And then something that people often confuse about riparian areas is they see these root wads and these felled trees that you can kind of see here. And they think that there's something that need to be taken out and that they're not part of the riparian vegetation. But they actually can provide really valuable bank stabilization, especially when a riverbank has already started to erode. So that's something we really want to keep in those places, the vegetation, fallen trees, and like rocks and whatnot. But one of the most important ideas we like to drive home and that we want landowners to really remember if they have a riparian zone or if they're on the riverbank is don't dig the river. It can be incredibly damaging to the river, and it's likely to cause you a whole bunch of problems down the road. Whatever problem you think it's solving, it's definitely not, and it's going to get worse. And Matt's going to finish this up here real quick.
All right. So why does land stewardship matter to the waterways? We're the river authority, right? So we've been only talking about land so far, but we've talked about all different ways people can take care of their land. But the reason that is because everything that happens on the land, whether it be in upland areas or just right next to the river, all that can more likely affect the river more so than some of the stuff that might happen in the river itself. Not to say that things that happen in the river don't affect, water quality and water quantity and things like that. But it all starts in upland areas, like Travis was saying. If you take care of your land in upland areas, you're going to have better water quality down at the river. Same thing with riparian areas, like Shelby was talking about. It's important that you take care of that riparian area. Make sure you have nice native vegetation there that have those strong roots that hold it together like rebar holds together concrete. So you mitigate flood or flood intensity, you mitigate erosion, all these different benefits that good land stewardship can have on the waterway itself. Can make you have just a really great river that, like I said earlier, we all need water. We all enjoy water. We all have to drink it, but we also like to go swimming. We also like to go fishing and all these benefits that the rivers can provide. So, that's why we focus mainly on land stewardship, because it's incredibly important. And so we monitor the river just kind of as a last defense to see how the land is affecting the river. So so like we've said before, we're going to be around here for a little while, so y'all can ask questions, kind of look at our equipment, look at all these aquatic invertebrates and everything. And I'll also leave up our contact information if you ever have any question. Oh, yes. Yes, we definitely like what Katie was saying in the back is basically, sorry, I have okay, so basically we're not only trying to promote, land stewardship just to landowners, but also to public entities and organizations as well, and political entities as well. I mean, absolutely, yes. Sometimes it's hard whenever there's different entities that are kind of, they have ownership, like you said, over their particular banks, like maybe at a park or, something like that. It's, we do promote and encourage that land stewardship. How, we can't make anybody do anything, unfortunately. We can conduct investigations where we see needed, and we can start investigations and then pass it along to people like Texas Parks or TCEQ for furthering that investigation. But it all starts with education. Yeah, that's why we're here, to make sure people know how to take care of their land so they can take care of the river, and not only for us but everybody downstream as well. So yeah, it's it's an ongoing thing. Like I said, it starts with education, and that's what we like to do. But yeah, anybody else have any questions? Yes. That's the Texas. So I'm having a total brain meltdown right now. I'll hand this over to Shelby.
So the question was, what does TCEQ stand for? And that's the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. So they're our state regulatory agency on environmental topics. So the question was, if we see some parameter that's so if we see too much bacteria or something that's wrong with the river, do we go investigate it, or do we send another agency to go investigate it? So that's on a case-by-case basis. We can typically go investigate things within Kerr County ourselves, because that's where all of our monitoring is within Kerr County. So we're usually able to, for example, if there's at the park, there's a higher level of bacteria, we're usually able to go see, okay, there's a bunch of Egyptian geese there. That's probably what's happening and whatnot. But if there is a more serious infraction that we find in our investigation, then we do work with City of Kerrville, Kerr County, or Texas Parks and Wildlife, or even sometimes TCEQ, if we think it's something that needs to be elevated, because we are not a regulatory agency. So while we can investigate, there's no further steps that we take ourselves. No, we cannot get rid of the Egyptian geese, but we can try to tell people and politely ask them to stop feeding the Egyptian geese. Yeah, so the question was about the division between Upper Guadalupe River Authority and other parts. We service just Kerr County. So we only do Kerr County. We focus on the Guadalupe River, but we only do Kerr County, and then each river authority has different, their own divisions about where they are and what county they're in and whatnot. They're all a little bit different. Diane was just saying that right below us is Guadalupe Blanco River Authority. So the question was, do we all the different river authorities have similar protocols for how we test water quality? And we all typically follow what TCEQ's guidelines are, specifically when we're submitting data to TCEQ, because a lot of river authorities around here do. There are some in-house things that we can have our own guidelines about, but typically we follow TCEQ standards, all of us. Yes. Yes, UGRA is funded by county funds, Kerr County. Yes, it was said that that's the reason, since we're funded by Kerr County, that is why all of our activities occur in Kerr County, even though we understand that the watershed is much larger than Kerr County. Yeah, we would love to do work in other places, but this is where we're funded, and this is where our efforts will be, is in Kerr County.
Hey, everybody, this is Carla. I'm reading Tony Plutano from Mason is making an announcement that Texas Parks and Wildlife, I don't know what the second word is there, Tony. It looks like something on the Llano for an aquatic organism demo during the Mason County winter fish on December 3rd. It's in the chat on the Zoom. So there's something on December 3rd up in the Mason area. If you're interested in finding out more about that, contact Tony Plutino at gmail.com. TonyPlutino at gmail.com. Signing, is that a real word?
Yeah.
Okay. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, so that's whenever you pull a large net through the river and you catch all that you can, and then you go through and count out everything that you catch. That's the way we do. We do about 6 seine hauls whenever we do those aquatic life monitoring events. So it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
I guess since we don't have any more questions at this point, the presentation is done, and the audience here is more than welcome to come down here and look at some of the equipment that the UGRA uses. And as well, there's information pamphlets outside the door. So with that, we're going to end this AT session. Thank you.